Hey, and happy Tuesday. I am Ryan Duffy, managing editor of Payload and your host. This is the third episode of Pathfinder, a weekly show where we sit down with the top shot callers in space. If you're watching this, you already know this, but we are excited to launch Pathfinder on video. So tune in on Spotify or YouTube if you want to watch me in a dimly lit beach house. Limited time offer expires soon. Terms and conditions may apply. Today's guest is Lauren Lyons, a space industry consultant, startup advisor, and STEM evangelist. Lauren is working on something new, eyeball emoji, but most recently was COO of Firefly Aerospace. Before that, Lauren held senior engineering roles at Blue Origin and SpaceX. She joins us to discuss those experiences, culture, shipping successful space products, competing with big tech, and way more. It's a great combo. Lauren definitely kept me on my toes, and I'm excited for you to listen/watch it. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Our reliance on satellites for navigation, communications, commerce, and intelligence has grown exponentially in the new space economy. Unfortunately, the risks have grown as well, and the need to prioritize cybersecurity around space assets is critical. Spider Oak Mission Systems provides space cybersecurity products for military, commercial, and civilian operators. Their Orbit Secure solution is the first to deliver zero trust security to zero gravity environments, protecting space communication, command, control, data transmission, storage, and integrity at the data level. To learn more about Orbit Secure, check out their website at spideroak-ms.com. Again, that is spideroak-ms.com. And without further ado, Pathfinder Episode 3 with Lauren Lyons. Lauren, welcome to Pathfinder.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
So this has been a long time coming. The technology gods and the market gods conspired to keep us away, but we're finally doing it.
Yes.
Are you excited?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Love Payload. Love this idea. Love that you guys are doing this. Listened to the first episode. It was awesome. So yeah, I'm just really excited. I get to sit here and do this.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation. And I am expecting lots of hot takes. But before we get to the hot take, can you walk us through, in your own words, what your career journey has been? Because you've had quite the vocational travels through time and space.
Oh, yeah. So quick question. At what point are you no longer allowed to say what college you went to?
You can still say what.
I feel like you reach a certain place in your career where you're just like, you don't talk about that anymore.
Start with the alma mater, for sure.
Awesome. All right. So I went to Princeton and I studied mechanical and aerospace engineering. And, Princeton doesn't have minors. They have these things called certificates. It's essentially the same thing. So I got two of those, one in bioengineering and one in robotics. And throughout all of my summers, I worked at JPL working on Mars robots. And the lab that I was working in my senior year did medical device technology, specifically like orthopedic biomaterials. Got super into that, hence the certificate in bioengineering. And that's what I did for the first several years of my career.
I'm actually going to stop you there because we'll get to space. We already are in space. So first off, JPL every summer, casual. Second, medical devices, quite the detour from this traditional linear path across, various space companies or space agencies. What was that like?
Oh, it's called you need a job in college and there's a lab that's going to pay you more than most of the other jobs. And that's really honestly where it started, and having a really good advisor. And I just, really took to it. But yeah, I mean, that was my first real job out of college. A lot of the, engineering skills that I picked up were relevant. I mean, you're doing CAD, you're doing drawings. And actually that's where I learned some of the real just fundamentals of basic engineering. I mean, I was doing orthopedics. What is that? But bones and structures and loads and, testing my own hardware all the time, writing requirements, verifying them through test and analysis, doing my own FEA. I mean, to me, I felt like it was this kind of school of hard knocks, but in a way that the product development cycle is really tight. So, within 6 months, you could go from, a concept sketch to like actual, testing and almost putting them in people. And so, yeah, it was a great experience.
So tight product development cycles sounds somewhat familiar. What about the process of bringing it to market?
Mm,
Being able to launch, so to speak.
yeah. So it kind of it varies depending on the complexity of the device and whether or not that device has what's referred to a predicate device that's already on the market. So there's certain classes of devices that require a clinical trial, and then others that just require you to show what the FDA calls substantial equivalence. And usually it's through testing and some basic, biomaterials and indications for what the device is going to be used for. So you could get those to market in under a year. And obviously, the ones that require a clinical trial, it's a much bigger deal. But that regulatory environment, honestly, is actually how I got my job at SpaceX. It turns out in my interview, they were less excited about my JPL work. And I was literally told, yeah, with your stuff in Medtronic, that's the medical device company I was working at, they were like, this is very applicable to a lot of the mission integration work that we're doing with Falcon 9, which was like really shocking to me. I thought those device days were going to be a weakness, but it turned out to be like a total strength.
That might be a testament to their recruiting abilities. Would you say that it's harder to bring a medical device to market or to launch a rocket? That's obviously somewhat of a, gotcha question, but I know about the complexities as a son of two doctors. Healthcare world, highly regulated, very complex. That's why I did not become a doctor. That's the only reason.
Well, there's a lot of similarities on the non-technical side. On the technical side, not so much. But on the non-technical side, you're talking about these highly regulated environments. You are talking about, in some cases, and back when I was in that space, there were all these new startups that, oh my God, it's like the same thing. Wow. I'm seeing it right now. All right.
All these parallels.
I know, it's crazy. A lot of new startups that were popping up. And, I remember we would refer to them as the ankle biters. They're coming in and just chipping away at our market share. And what you were seeing is there were a lot of barriers to entry for those companies. And then the incumbents, they're going to fight really hard to hold on to their territory. And you saw the same thing back in the early SpaceX days, right?
Yeah.
And so through those scrappy new companies, coming in and pushing for new innovative technologies, pushing the FDA to think differently about things, getting forward-thinking doctors who are willing to try new things and, put their names on new products that are going to deliver better care to their patients. It's those advocates, similar to if you think about, back when, commercial cargo for Dragon, what did you have? You had those NASA folks who like really believed in public-private partnerships and what that can look like. And so, yeah, it's interesting. There are a lot of parallels there for sure.
Yeah. So just last week, the Transporter 5 mission launched. And when you look at the manifest, it was really crazy. One, it's a who's who of all of these very, very high traction space startups or space SPACs, but also just the actual vehicles themselves. There were three, I think, orbital transfer vehicles on there. So, and then also 2 weeks ago, you had SpaceX launching 2 sets of Starlink satellites less than 24 hours apart. So the SpaceX you see today, that we all see, that the world sees, is this well-oiled machine. How different is that from when you joined?
Interesting question. First of all, I just want to know, it is so cool when you're seeing all of your friends on LinkedIn and on Twitter talking about their satellites being in orbit, and you just realize the real impact of that program. I'm going to be honest, I didn't truly appreciate it while I was there, but now that it's hit its stride and you're just seeing so many companies get to, not let's take 10 years and build the perfect satellite and then fly it, but it's like, all right, we've been working on this for 9 months to a year and a half or so. Let's chuck it up there. Let's see what happens. That's how you learn. So I think it's just really awesome that the transporter program has allowed that opportunity for these companies. But your question was the well-oiled machine question. Yeah, it's really cool seeing that. Yeah.
Just to add some context, headcount, operational tempo, whether that's launch turnaround, just the amount of products, whatever KPI or metric you want to use. I'm just curious to hear how different SpaceX was when you first joined.
Well, we were talking about what's happening now, which was being able to fly at this ridiculously high cadence. One of the things that I always say about SpaceX is, maybe it's getting much, much better, much tighter as an organization matures, obviously, right? But people always used to give Elon a bunch of crap about, he says a date, but it's really like X number of years out from that date.
Elon time,
right? But Elon time is still like twice as fast as regular people time. And so, so it's like, what are we complaining about there? So, this is the vision. This is what, we were talking about back in those days. And, I wasn't there that long ago, but it's been really awesome to see just how quickly the bit has flipped, such that they've stepped into that, regular operations, just super efficient, being able to launch. I remember the first time we tried to launch, back-to-back days, and, that was hard. And it ain't no thing now. Maybe it is. I'm not there. I don't know how hard it is, but it's definitely happened. And it seems like the team has really hit its stride. When you do something hundreds of times, like you better get good at it, right?
Yeah. Let's back up a little bit. And why don't you walk the audience and myself through what your portfolio of duties at SpaceX was like?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. It's the kind of place where there's no shortage of problems to solve. And if you're a hungry, curious person, there's a lot of opportunity. And so I started off in mission management and mission integration as a mission integration engineer, taking that medical device background and applying it to, requirements and verification and, just the whole process of integrating a satellite onto Falcon 9. When F929 blew up on the pad, that was my signal to, get really excited about what I could do to help the company in a more meaningful way. Not that what I wasn't doing was meaningful, but there was like a clear problem that needed to be dealt with. And so I was able to join the anomaly investigation team, and that just struck up in me, being around the smartest people in the company, solving this like crazy hard problem. I wanted to get involved in mission assurance. And so went on to mission assurance, worked mission assurance for Falcon and for Dragon, and also led the ISS certification effort for Crew Dragon for the first demo mission. After that, decided to hop on the next biggest, hottest project, which was Starlink, and join the Starlink team, where I don't even know if I could summarize the things that I did there. It was like a startup within a startup. It's kind of crazy. You just hop on whatever grenade there is. But yeah.
You were also doing Livecast at some point, right? Because I saw you on Return to Space.
Oh, that's right. It was like not even 5% of my time. It's like, it's so wild to me.
That's wild.
I know. It's like, it's not even something I definitely had the most awesome time doing that, but it's such a small part of what I did every day. But it's obviously the thing that, impacts the most people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also just casually, you have the audience of like a mid-sized TikTok or YouTube influencer watching your every word or listening to your every word and, watching that live cast. So casual though. How much did you sleep? Did you ever sleep?
Oh,
do you sleep now?
Of course I do. That's why you take out a lot of other stuff.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know where you find the time. So we talked a lot about the wide range. Let's zero in on Starlink for a second. Where along the product development journey did you join, and what did you really own while you were on the Starlink team?
Yeah, so I joined after the first Tintin launch, so the first demo sat launch, and before, actually, I think I showed up to Redmond just like a week before the first launch or something like that. It was really tight. I started off as a satellite simulation engineer, so working on the network sim, because I was going to be focused on the business side, and I was told you can't. I love this perspective, by the way. Like, I feel like this is true for anybody doing the business side of things. Is, you got to understand the system that you're building a business case around, especially if you're going to be asking other people to do work. So you sit in the trenches, you learn C++ in your 30s. So that was fun. I cried at my desk maybe a few times, but it was great. I have to say, like, having that background and intimately understanding how the network worked was just critical. And then from there, my focus started to really dive into the consumer-facing side of things. So I was on the consumer experience side on the ground terminals for the user terminal. Everything from how do you install this thing? What do the instructions look like? User testing, became a UX person all of a sudden, which was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Starlink is in effect a D2C product. Like SpaceX is selling these terminals and this satellite internet to, at last count, 400,000 subscribers. It's probably higher now, but that was the last number that they gave.
It's wild. It's wild.
And we talked about this off air in an earlier conversation, but I do want to bring it up. Part of that customer experience or overall UX was cables, right? Cable management. Because we are both, I feel that happiness comes from within, but it also comes from cable management. Like you can't see any cables back here.
I love a nice clean cable. Like definitely spent a bunch of time climbing up on roofs.
Well, obviously Starlink has a wide lead over the competing mega constellations, but that is an interesting thought because obviously with Kuiper, Amazon brings a lot of e-commerce and consumer experience. And very seamless segue, Ryan. Let's move on from SpaceX, and I'm sure we'll return to it later in the conversation. But why don't you tell us about what came next in the career?
So after SpaceX, I went on to Blue Origin, where I was a lead engineer on the HLS program there. So for the lunar lander with Draper, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman. And when we didn't win that contract, I then went on to be the lead systems engineer for the Orbital Reef project.
There you go. I don't think I even knew that casual just aside of working on. Yeah. So you've really covered the whole spectrum of satellite internet. You've covered all the buzzy stuff. Love it. And then
I haven't done asteroid mining yet.
Okay. Well, hey, there you go. That sounds like a possible future, maybe side project or hobby. I don't know. But and then you spent a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest. You were here in Austin for a bit too. What were you doing in Austin?
I was in proper Austin. It was right there. So after Blue, I went on to be the COO of Firefly Aerospace. So was living in Boston and not Boston, in Austin, where you are. And yeah, it was interesting being in Texas.
I get those confused all the time.
They're like the same thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was born in Boston and I live in Austin and people get them switched all the time. And then I get them switched, but.
You seem like more of a Boston kind of guy, honestly.
That somewhat surprises me. That is my only tattoo.
Really?
Sorry, mom and dad. Yeah. My only tattoo is the Boston Red Sox. But so between three rocket companies, 3 space companies more broadly, maybe, how close do you stay in contact with your former coworkers at all of those various companies?
All the time. It's like you can't do this kind of work and be in the trenches with people like that on this complex stuff without forming really tight bonds. And yeah, these are your just friends forever. I scroll through my Instagram feed and seeing people from these SpaceX weddings, right, where it's just like all these people who don't work there anymore, they all come back and people are just really good friends. And even if you leave the area, I know that if I go to LA, I can just post up in El Segundo and have an awesome crew of people show up and we can hang out. And yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the space industry is, like, in my opinion, I think you always make friends at work, right? But it's, I think, a little bit different in this world because the people, you're there not just to collect a check in general. Like, these are people who are super mission oriented and mission driven, and they could go work other places. They could make more money other places. They could have a much less stressful job, but they are choosing this insanity. And there is a like-mindedness of spirit that kind of emerges from having that commonality. And so, yeah, it's like you stay really close to these peeps.
Yeah, just to sum it up, it's not much work-life balance, pay not commensurate with hours, crazy deadlines, little to no margin for error, occasional explosion, and yeah, the list goes on.
Party time.
On and on. That's great. But obviously the flip side, glass half full, building world-changing products and working with the brightest minds of your generation. But I think that's actually, I want to zero in on the concept of your former coworkers, everyone, probably some of your best friends, brightest minds of your generation. The case could be made, and I think that it is the case that for a lot of job functions that any of these space companies that we've mentioned, any of the roles that they need to fill, they would be in direct competition for talent with Facebook or Google or Apple. So given the downsides of the job that I just listed, how do you make the pitch to young STEM talent that are coming out of the best universities, not even in the US, across the world, when Facebook or any of the family companies?
Yes, you are right in that, especially if you're looking at software engineering jobs, right? People, want to come in like 300K, and a lot of space companies just can't pay that. The margins are so thin in this business. There's not really a lot of profitable space companies, right? And so I think what that then does do is it attracts a certain type of person, a person that is interested in the mission and is driven by the mission. Now, I do believe that the days of like drastically kind of disturbingly underpaying people are over. I've been seeing a lot of salary adjustment. It's really good to hear. I think it may still be happening in some places, but by and large, like I think people are paid living wages, and you're not getting these situations where you're just grinding and you're just like, why am I here? I'm only here for the mission. That's not the case anymore, which is good because it's just too competitive out there right now. So I think continuing to be able to pay people what they're worth to the extent that you can, and not making the excuse of, or it's a reason, but also an excuse of, well, we're a startup. I'm hearing VCs telling their portfolio companies, like, if you got a good person, pay them. Like, pay people. These taking this massive haircut just to have the privilege to, work on a rocket it's a little bit mad. So yeah, I think there's still a ton of work to go. But I think things are in a much better place than they were in the past.
Yeah. Just to add some numbers in there, I pulled some data from the BLS before this. The U.S. aerospace engineers' median salary was just over 120K as of May 2021, and there were 61,000, rounding down. 61.
Is that like engineers or?
Yeah, so it's broadly defined, and that's also from 2020 with an 8% compound growth rate through the decade. And then software developers median was 110K, which is actually lower, but there are 1.9 million of those jobs.
What? That's interesting.
As of 2020, and that's 22% annual growth through 2030. So it will be really interesting to track how those converge or differ over the years. And I think that this is also a snapshot in time, and things are changing so quickly. But
right, it'd be cool to see like what the breakdown of those demographics are too. Is like what age group, how many years of experience, and what the distribution looks like.
Yeah, it's also pretty broad, but it's the best data that I could find. But it's a good point too, because I mean, when you narrow the aperture down to Silicon Valley, it's like 350K for senior SWE, VPs $500,000 a year, and then when you're looking at an AI PhD, that they're pulling in the salary of like a mid-tier NBA or NFL player. So yeah, but that's good it's awesome to hear. It's awesome to hear that it's getting better over.
Right?
Oh yeah. No, they're not.
It's crazy.
They're not at parity. Yeah. I mean,
it's not like that good though, to be clear. Like, we're not looking at those like but it's better. It's better. And it's also like that, I wonder how much This is actually a good question. I should talk to some HR people on this. I probably won't, but somebody should. Which is, did things were those the salary adjustments that happened at some of the bigger companies? Was that in reaction to inflation? Was that a reaction to
Yeah, I was wondering that.
yeah, is it a reaction to just all this competition popping up and people getting poached pretty easily and attempt to retain people? I mean, I would assume it's probably a combination of the two. um, More so than a like, hey, we need to be more like these others. But it's like, you're losing people, or you need to attract people, so you got to pay people.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, as you said, you can't, it's going to be quite some time if it ever happens where space can compete directly with
Right.
digital ad companies on price. But I do think that there is a wedge there of winning hearts and minds and building more impactful things. I think that makes a lot of sense. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure that almost our entire audience would completely agree with that.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks. That a lot of food for thought there. And if and when we do round 2, we'll have to revisit this. But what role does culture play in shipping products successfully? And that is not so broad as to be just in the business world. That's for the space industry.
Yeah. This is a great question. Um, there's I've been asking people this question online and just trying to, kind of hear people's perspectives. What do they think is a good part of a good culture, and what isn't great. And I haven't like synthesized things down into some nice soundbite or whatever, but some of the trends I've been seeing, which I completely agree with, having a having a culture of ownership. Gosh, it's just night and day. I mean, I've been at a few companies at this point and seeing the difference when, a responsible engineer is owning something end to end versus there being like a ton of system and process and checkers and other box checkers who then check the box that person checks. And the tendency to kind of let go, right? Versus if you remove all those middle steps, all those extra steps, all that waste, when the engineer can truly, truly own their product end to end and feel that accountability, they hold themselves accountable, right? And you create a culture where it's not just, well, I was given a rule or given a thing to do or given a task and let me just execute on it. Like that engineer feels like they can actually affect the outcome. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And so ownership is a key piece that I've seen. Another thing that I'm just super big on just is relentlessly cutting through bureaucracy and churn and waste. Now, bureaucracy serves, just like with the government, right? Bureaucracy serves a really good purpose in some cases, right? It's there to stop someone from coming in and just willy-nilly changing everything and throwing in the whole country into, but at a company, there's some aspect of it that you need, but like, I don't know, man. Some of these companies be trying to like reflect, like a state or something. It's like, you don't need to do all that. And so
You don't need your own Navy.
you don't need your own Navy.
Actually, if you're SpaceX, you do need a small Navy.
You do need your own Navy.
Take that
Yeah.
But we're not talking about SpaceX having a huge bureaucracy here.
Exactly. And
That's
right.
clear.
And so how do you remove all of those layers? Like I always like to say, like if you are both the consumer and the provider of your product or of your deliverable, you can be deleted. And, if you're making documentation that only you really read, delete it. I think we should be, if you want to think about how to extend your runway, how to be able to pay people more, it's not hire a bunch of people to do meaningless tasks or to do work that was created because you created a problem that you now need to solve. And so I think that's, to me, like, man, companies that have that in their heads, pretty seriously and attack that problem constantly, you have to also keep coming back to it too, because you start to build all this waste and you don't even know what's happening until you go back and reflect on it.
Yeah. And I'm sure compared to your average Fortune 500 company or even just startup, the friction of hiring each incremental employee, like you can have documentation, but at a space company, that's only going to take someone so far. And there are active opportunity costs with scaling someone up. That makes sense. You mentioned runway, and I do think that's something we should talk about, because the cost of capital is, of course, different than it was even 2 years ago when we were in the throes of the pandemic and the Fed bazooka was still on. And we are in a very, very different world than even just a year ago. With limited exceptions, the SPAC era is over. And I'm sure that this is already waterfall down to the private markets of the CEOs that I've spoken to that have raised this year. Most of them had, when I asked them, was it hard to close this round? Most of them had already done it by when shit kind of hit the fan.
Yes.
But do you think that, do you worry about just the momentum of space and specifically space startups? Or do you think that a silver lining of this could be that companies are going to have to really, really focus, on maniacally on the North Star and extending that runway as much as possible, because there might not be a huge powder keg of dry powder coming to the rescue?
Yeah, great question. I feel like there's two sides to this coin. On one side, it's always been so scary for me when, just a couple years ago, you're seeing all these companies popping up and you're seeing all this money just pouring into these companies, and you're just kind of looking at some of this stuff like, really? We paying for that, huh? All right. And to me, my big fear was, is there going to be a backlash? It had been so hard to get people to want to invest in space, specifically on the hardware side, right? These long timeline projects. A lot of people lost a lot of money in some bad deals, like in the past. And so, getting seizing the day with this newfound interest and understanding and the work that, the SpaceXs and the rocket labs have done to make it clear kind of what the value proposition of this stuff is. And then to see some of that, honestly, in some ways getting abused, and then in other ways, just naivete, I suppose. And it's just always been a little scary to me, because I've been like, oh my gosh, what do people then go, I knew I should have never gotten my dip my toes in that, the backlash. Yeah. So that always been like, that's really concerned me. But on the flip side of that, the companies that, this is not a novel thought here, but the companies that are going to emerge on the other side of this, I hope those are the ones that, are the ones with the real business models, with the solid teams that know how to execute, that know how to deliver on their milestones. This is, you're promising I'm going to have this done by this date. Like, the teams that really know how to get it done, hopefully those are the ones that are left standing.
Yeah. That's fascinating, because great companies get built during downturns. But the last time we had, putting aside 2020, the last time we had a really, sizable recession, I don't know if the commercial space industry was really at a point where we have a large enough N to look at the various companies. So it will be pretty interesting to watch how the wheat gets separated from the chaff in the coming months. And hopefully it's the coming months and not the coming years. Hopefully the downturn doesn't last forever. But really quick plug, Payload's director of operations, Jess, had a great Twitter thread. I'll put it in the show notes about investing in deep tech during a downturn and why we shouldn't do it. And I'm also going to add another quick plug. We're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor. Time for a short break to hear about our sponsors again. Space is the new frontier for cybersecurity. Spider Oak Mission Systems builds space cybersecurity solutions for civilian, military, and commercial space operations. Their Orbit Secure protocol delivers zero trust security to zero gravity environments, protecting space communication, command, control, data transmission, storage, and integrity at the data level. To learn more about how zero trust architectures will revolutionize security in new space, download the new NSR Spider Oak sponsored white paper, titled Space Cybersecurity, Current State and Future Needs. Find the white paper at spacecyber.com. Again, that's spacecyber.com. Or check out their website at spideroak-ms.com. And tell them Pathfinder sent you. All right, everyone, we are back. So, Lauren, I am sure that you would agree that when you work for a very mission-driven organization, and when it has the culture that you're talking about, and just when you're really in the trenches with someone for so many hours a day, like before the sun rises, after the sun sets, that when you leave, it can be a little bit deflating. You could feel rudderless and worry about what's next, and just feel maybe that whatever you do next, it just won't have the same meaning. And because, you spent quite a bit of time at SpaceX, I do want to zero in there. I'm sure that it can feel like you'll never be able to recreate that ethos or operational tempo. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God, just hearing you say that made me sad.
Damn.
No, I'm kidding only a little bit though. I'm only kind of kidding. No, I mean, you're speaking to something that is like, it's a real thing. And I was warned about it before I left. And I was just like, I don't believe this. There's tons of great opportunities and great stuff out there. But, I was chatting with a former coworker, actually former guy who's my boss at SpaceX. And he referred to it as, wanting to be at the tip of the spear. I love that, because that's what it feels like. You're sitting there and you're like pioneering in pretty much everything you're doing all the time. And when you're in such a high execution, high functioning environment, and knowing the rest of the world doesn't operate that way, it can be very scary. So you end up kind of chasing that. And I'm not sure how healthy that is, but it is what happens. And the bar just becomes really, really high. There may be, whether you loved working there or not, or there are aspects of, the culture maybe you didn't dig, like you can't deny the results are there, and you get used to like achieving results. And so it sets that bar super high for what you do next.
That actually sort of reminds me, tip of the spear in the military world, that refers to special operators. And I'm not saying SpaceX engineers are special operators, but there is the operational ethos. There are some interesting parallels there. Do you maintain an Excel file or Google Sheets file, or maybe you have a CRM app that you made? Do you kind of keep tabs on where everyone is going and what people are doing? Because obviously people churn out of any organization.
I love that you said CRM. No, I do not have a thermal CRM of all of the SpaceX. But oh God, I bet some people do, which is so interesting. There are some VC firms that are just like focused exclusively on investing in SpaceXers, startups, which, that's a strategy for sure. No, I don't. But the network is pretty strong. The like SpaceX Mafia network. There's like a Facebook group of alumni. I'm not a part of that because I don't really do Facebook, but I do manage to keep in touch with people and just keep my eye on where people are going. LinkedIn's very helpful for that. But also, you make friends. They tell you what they're working on and what they're cooking up. There's a lot of people helping one another, so you know what they're doing. But I would say the trends that I've been seeing, this is a gross simplification, but just roll with me here. You got people, they kind of do one of three things. You either leave that place and then you go down the street to Relativity, ABL, Varda. That's where your homies are. You kind of know what you're getting into for the most part. That anxiety about the execution is a little bit lessened because you know who you're working with and they're going to have the same ethos when you get there. And that's huge, right? So yeah, that's bucket one. Bucket two is you see people going off and starting their own ventures. Because maybe they go, you know what? Nothing will compare. I just got to do it myself. Or they go, there's a crap ton of capital out here. Let's go scoop it up. Like that's another thing.
They caught the entrepreneurial bug.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of you have the, stability of like an HR department and some infrastructure at SpaceX, but it is very entrepreneurial there. And that's, one of the things I really loved about it. And the third bucket, again, gross simplification, there are definitely people on the tails here. But the third bucket, I would say, is people going into clean tech, either starting their own companies or joining other companies, going to the fusion companies like to Helion, to Commonwealth, starting their own companies like HGen. There's an awesome company that I think they're still stealth, so I'm not going to talk about it, but turbo machinery engineers going off and doing things, and that passion for like climate, for saving the planet. It's a similar mindset of these super mission driven people who are now looking at the world and going, it's on fire. And I'm going to take, and honestly, that's what super excites me about the clean tech space right now. I'm super new to it, but like you're taking people who have been in one of the most high functioning organizations on the planet that have taken designs from a clean sheet to flight in a ridiculously quick amount of time, and they are bringing that kind of energy to the climate crisis. I'm really excited about what we're going to see coming out of these companies in the next few years.
Yeah. And that goes back to our point earlier about space and software really converging. I don't know if you want to call it hard tech. Actually, let's call it deep tech. Definitionally, that is certainly Climatetech is part of that. It's part and parcel of that because we need to build solutions and hopefully engineer our way out of this big problem.
Yes. And looking at these problems differently too. It's not that people haven't been trying to do carbon capture and sequestration, but have people been able to scale these things? Have they been able to drastically reduce the costs? Are they challenging the first principles assumptions that have been made about what you can and cannot do? Like that kind of thinking, like that's what's needed on this. And again, yeah, like the next few years are going to be like wildly interesting.
What would you say is the biggest way for these types of companies getting started? How do you de-risk it and set aside the technical de-risking? Because in a lot of instances, there's no precedent for this. But how do you de-risk that and make the company's odds of success higher? Is it just writing the damn check? Is it making the right connections? Is it something else that I'm not thinking of?
To me, it's go fast and have a good team. You got to move fast. You just have to. That's that execution piece of it. To me, I feel like execution risk is just greatly undervalued, and people not understanding, I shouldn't say understanding, but underappreciating the pieces that have to come into place for an organization to be in a place where it can execute at a high frequency. And I think understanding early in your product development cycle, what are the minimum amount of requirements to put on yourself? How to go through design analysis cycles like really crisply and really quickly, and then make decisions really fast about what to do next, where to take risk, where not to take risk, where to buy down that risk early versus not. What are those key decisions that you need to be making early on to understand if you even have a product or if you need to pivot? And actually the program management of that. How do you implement a rapid development R&D program? I think that's not a super common skill set. You can be hacking around all willy-nilly in the lab all you want, but there is a level of vectoring that needs to happen there. And it's a skill set. So I think, yeah, moving fast and having the right people on your team that can actually execute to that vision.
Yeah. I think that in theory, given the state of capital markets today, that might be a forcing function or a necessary kick in the rear to ensure that really lean team, quick operational tempo, no nonsense mentality. But last thing before we will move on and close out the show with more general space industry questions, I am workshopping a theory that SpaceX's greatest competitor is SpaceX. Whether it's catching that entrepreneurship bug that I mentioned, or going to join one of your former coworkers who started a company, or simply burning out and needing a reset, or getting lured away with a better comp package or more liquid options, talent churns out of SpaceX, obviously. And so my working theory is that the greatest competitor is going to be the sum of all of these parts. This is a half-baked hypothesis, and it's definitely not a foregone conclusion or even what I think will happen. It's just kind of a straw man, maybe. Thoughts?
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Like when you say the sum of, yeah.
Yeah, so that the competitive landscape and all of these companies that are not being spun out of SpaceX, but the founding teams, the technical teams, they're all former SpaceXers. And for whatever reason, whether it is wanting to build rockets in a different way, like Stoke, for example, or wanting to start one of these nuclear fission companies, they're doing that now. And the theory goes that SpaceX would lose its massive lead, its momentum, its market share, its dominance, whatever. Again, it's just I would say maybe even it's a straw man, but I'm trying to run it by former SpaceXers.
Interesting. Okay, first of all, love Stoke. Those are some Blue Origin folks, and they're absolute rock stars. I love those guys.
That's on me.
But I mean, to your point, though,
the same exact question could be asked of Blue Origin, though.
I think if I'm understanding your point correctly, I think that the tempo at which, let's talk about SpaceX in this example, is moving, that what happens in 1 year there is kind of like the equivalent of like multiple years at another place. And so someone going in and putting in a solid, 3 to 5 years there, the amount of experience and the amount of contributions they will have made to the company, not in every case, but in general, is going to be quite substantial. So even if there is a high, churn rate due to those factors that you described, I think you have to look at not the number of years, but the amount of real work and results that are being produced in that short period of time. Yeah, like just me, myself, I've had a lot of jobs there, right? But like spending, 1 year on Dragon is like, how many, like, so that's 4 missions. That's more than a lot of people see in their entire careers, right? So yeah, I think it depends on the context. I don't know, it's interesting. I like this straw man.
Yeah, well, I should also mention that Tesla and SpaceX famously are like the best out of any company at recruiting young talent who want to cut their teeth at
Yes, so good.
the best deep tech companies. So I'm kind of covering my ass here, but
you know what? That's another one.
Like, yeah. So I mean, yeah. There's
actually, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously just, that's where if you go survey students at any of the top technical schools in the US, I'm not sure about the world, but that's where those are the two companies that they list as their top choice where they want to go work.
You asked earlier though, and I meant to bring this up back then when you asked about how to stay competitive with the tech industry. And another one of those, things, it may have sounded like I was over indexing on experience, and that was absolutely not my intent. I believe finding those young, and I mean by young, I mean like not that much experience, not so much age, engineers that are hungry to learn, that don't come with all those biases, and you pair them up with somebody who's been there before, and there's no limit, right? And
Unstoppable. Unstoppable. Yeah.
Unstoppable. And so it's like, how do we get, I think the quote new space industry is way better about this. But man, it's like that frustrating piece. Even if you want to go to a more heritage company where the salary might be better, where it's a little bit more solid of a career opportunity, but you're told that you need to be working in a certain role for X number of years before you can graduate to the next one, where time and grade is actually a thing. And like that, to me, that's got to stop.
Yeah.
That needs to stop.
Yeah. Well, I would want to continue down that path, but we have to transition to the spicy segment portion of this conversation before we close out.
Ooh.
What does the general public misunderstand most about space?
That it's a billionaire space race. Let's be real. There's definitely some billionaires. Like, I'd be lying. I mean, obviously, but like, I only know like a few that are doing this, right? There's way more space companies than there are billionaires that are leading space companies. And so, yeah, I think that's who's, gets, the front page of the newspaper or whatever, name your news source, that gets the headlines. But for me, I get actually kind of, I don't know, I'm a little offended by that, to be perfectly honest, because if you look at the, thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are working in this industry, they're just regular schmegular people like me. It's like, I'm not a billionaire, not even close.
Neither am I.
And I feel like I work really hard, and, I'm really proud of the work that I do. And the fact that, someone's issue that they may have with insert billionaires' names here, like that has to somehow reflect on me and my industry. Like it really sucks, to be perfectly honest. And so, yeah, I think that narrative, on one side of it, it's really great to have these faces that people recognize that can bring attention to our industry. But on the flip side of it, right, if they do something wrong or they fall out of favor in the public sphere, somehow that reflects on all of us. And I don't think that's right.
Well, that's a great point. I think most folks listening to this would say the same thing about just the billionaire joyride narrative that's getting propagated constantly. But you went a layer deeper that is really fascinating, that these massive, 5,000 to 10,000 employee workforces are getting minimized and their work gets trivialized. So I think that is a fantastic point. I hadn't really thought about that. And, I'm a lowly emailer, but for
Beautiful
the sake
emails.
of this conversation, I'll LARP as a space industry worker. So we'll definitely clip that one. That's a great soundbite. Graceful transition to the next question. Lauren, do you have hobbies? Any hobbies?
I'm figuring them out now. Now that I'm slowing down a little bit, I'm like figuring out what I like to do that's not work. I mean, for the longest time, I'd say space was my hobby, and it was. And then it became my job, and I was like, wow, I get to do my hobby for my job. I think a lot of us feel that way, but yeah, I should like have other stuff. So, doom scrolling through TikTok right before I go to bed. That's one of my faves. I love my Oculus. Love my Oculus. I
do too.
And, I do. What's your favorite game?
Supernatural.
Mine too.
I know it.
I love Supernatural.
It's really incredible.
So good.
It's a very, very incredible.
Yeah.
That feels like the killer app for VR for at least the foreseeable future.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they have the Disney thing too. Like they have the Disney songs.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're building a lot of VR space experience, but that is a segue. Rein it in, Ryan. Rein it in.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, I knew it. I could just sense it.
I could tell. I was like, he's gonna say Supernatural, isn't he?
Yeah. I know, it's awesome. Next question: what's your hottest take about space?
Ooh,
pretty broad.
So, yeah, it's broad. Okay, so we love saying this. I'm like really big on this right now. All right, we love saying, "Oh, space is hard." Anytime anything goes wrong, we talk about how hard it is, and space is hard. Space is hard. Like. Sure, obviously, right? Why do we keep saying it? And this is not an original thought, came from actually at Firefly, was asking the directors of the company, what their vision was for the company. And one of them said, we keep saying space is hard. I want to make space easy. And that just like hit me in the gut.
Right in the
And
feels.
like wondering if like right in the feels, like so in the feels. And, what does it mean to make space easy? Just using that as like a goal, like a North Star sort of vision. I want to hear us talking more about what we're doing to make space easy. So whether it's something like Zona is doing for GPS, or it's something like Stoke is doing for fully reusable launch vehicles, or what SpaceX is doing with like launching every couple of days, right? They're making it look easy. They're making it look easy. And then at some point it will, it's never going to become trivial, right? Like flying a plane isn't trivial, even though, we kind of got that one figured out. But I'd love to see some energy around shifting our language around this stuff towards this a more positive and aspirational side of it, as opposed to, oh my God, everything is a disaster and it's hard. How are we ever going to do this?
Well, this has been forever etched into my mind, and I am never going to put it in another newsletter. Payload, you'll never see that in another Payload. But I've been trying to contain my smile because the guest who precedes you, Rob Meyerson, said the same thing, believe it or not.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have a talk about this one. This is like, there's a few people that I've, chatted with on this concept. And man, I think there needs to be a movement here.
Yeah, like a Justice League for the space industry of just hammering home that we're going to stop saying space is hard.
Yes.
And last question, and it's a two-part question. What are the most overhyped and underhyped aspects of space? Another broad one, so take it wherever you want.
Overhyped. Satellite broadband constellations.
Okay.
Everyone and their mom is doing one. And honestly, it's kind of a tie between that and OTVs. But
okay.
I pick on the constellations a bit more because I actually believe that solving the OTV problem is actually not exorbitantly technically challenging. The constellation one is a tougher one. And part of it is, and maybe I'm just naive here, but having been at a company that built one of those out and seeing the enormous amount of CapEx that had to go into that, and the number of people and just how dumb we were on certain things. Like, I'm just like, and I mean, look at the success, right? But that was not easy.
I would love to see the P&L or like the cash flow for any of these. And for Starlink, it'll look a bit different, but I sadly will probably never see that. Do you think that constellations will it be winner takes all, winner takes most, or will there be no winners?
I think probably winner takes most in the beginning, but you're going to have to keep innovating. So the technology that is on Starlink today, I mean, they're already replacing those satellites with like a next generation, right? And so there's the culture of like, you always have to be one-upping, making the technology better. It has to get better. And as more competition comes in, it's going to have to continue to get better.
Iterate or die.
We're going to have to figure out how to, exactly. And we're going to have to figure out, I mean, you have companies like AST, you have companies like Link that are looking to do like requiring no ground terminal, going directly to your cell phone.
Cut out the middleman.
Cut out the middleman, selling backhaul. There's so many different business models here and so many different market segments to hit. We are not even remotely saturated on that front. And so I think the market is there. I think it's going to be that they're not all going to be serving the same people, at least in the beginning. And then it's going to be a race for, as technology improves, as chips get, smarter, as we figure out, space logistics in a better way, and as the regulatory environment shapes and changes, that makes it easier to deploy these constellations and get ground landing rights on the ground. I think that whoever can adapt to that and also push these agencies in the right direction, those are the people who are going to win. But it's not going to be everybody. This everybody is going to throw up internet satellites thing is, I think.
I feel like there have been plenty of head fakes on that in like the 90s. Like before I was even born. But
before you were born, oh my gosh, this is why I've been like, should I? Oh boy,
I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not going to say anymore. Wait. I was born in the mid 90s. I was not born in 2000. I was going to just try to gloss over that, but I want to establish that. I was born in 1995, but enough about me. Underhyped aspect of space.
See a little tear coming down my eye right there on that one. Underhyped. All right. For me, this one's a controversial one in certain circles. Man, systems engineering, like, and not do more of it. I'm talking do less. If you just look at certain companies and look at what percentage of their, employees is it their job, like they don't deliver any hardware or any actual product, but they're delivering processes and creating processes for other people to follow and creating work for other people to do, or checking off, boxes that other people have done and verifying that someone did a thing right. Like, gosh, how do we delete all that? How do we delete that? And I just think that I have a lot of very strong feelings about this. And as a person whose job it was to be a systems engineer, like I did certification, I did requirements management, I ran a team of like many, many people who did this stuff. And all I could think of was like, how do I delete myself? How do I make us go away? Like that would be the grail. And I have a ton of ideas about that, but I think the companies, and we're talking about, this market situation right now where, there's, less capital to go around. And, how do you, maybe starting a big deep tech, giant hardware company, it's probably great, but maybe not so much right now. The companies that are looking at solving this problem, there are some of them out there. I think they are way underappreciated. And I feel like I wish more people were looking at how to make systems engineering more efficient in aerospace. How do you have more streamlined ERP systems? How do you manage requirements better? How do you in the V and V, how do you get rid of that first V as much as possible and focus on validation instead of verification? Like, I get really pumped up about this, and I really do wish more people were working on this. And the people that are working on it, I wish that people gave them more love, because this is what's going to make us go fast.
Well, go fast. There you go. I think that is a perfect place to end this on. Lauren, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Alrighty, everyone. That is it for Pathfinder episode 0003 for Payload. Thanks to Lauren for being a great sparring partner and giving us an inside look at what it's like in the trenches. And a huge shout out to her for being our first video interview. To get all of our future episodes, subscribe to Pathfinder wherever you're listening to this. And if you like what you heard, rate and review us on Apple or Spotify. If you didn't like what you heard, that's okay. You don't need to do that. Stay tuned for more fun guests that we have in the pipeline and a lot more great conversation. But in the interim, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly at ryan@payloodspace.com with any feedback that you might have. I'm Ryan Duffy signing off, and I'll see you back here next week.